Welcome to captivating and compelling content your audience will love. Now, modern day entrepreneurs, just like you, know the importance of content marketing. And how could you not? It's everywhere. But that's honestly part of the problem. With the plethora of content that's bombarding your customers and your clients every single day, how do you as a business owner break through? How do you make sure that your business gets noticed and gets the attention that it deserves? No matter the platform, whether we're talking about social media, email marketing, blogs, podcasts, videos, etc., your content has got to be on point. And by that, what I mean is that your content has got to be both captivating and compelling. I'm Hilary Johnson, the CEO and founder of Hatch Tribe, and I work with women entrepreneurs just like you, helping you build thriving businesses and really step into your shoes as the CEO of your business. So we're going to go ahead and dig right in on today's conversation. So grab a notebook and let's get going. Now, I'd like to start with a quote. The only way to win at content marketing is for the reader to say, "This was written specifically for me." So in this context, of course, Jamie's talking about written content, but you could sub in anything here. Whether we're talking about a video or we're talking about a visual, we want content marketing to have this sudden aha when your audience sees it to say, gosh, this person gets me. This business gets me. Wow. We want it to feel like it's written or created specifically for us because that's what helps build that connection. And we'll talk about why that is so critically important with content marketing. Now, your goal today is that by the end of this, you are going to have 50 or more fresh, captivating, and compelling content ideas. So I want to set the tone for that now. And this is easily doable, and I'm going to guide you through it. So just work with me every step of the way, and we will get there, and you're going to have a real arsenal of content ideas at your disposal, and we'll talk about how to get the most leverage out of every single one of them. So what's on today's agenda? Okay, first up, why content marketing is critical for your business to grow this year and every year. We'll talk about what makes for awesome content that's both captivating and compelling and ultimately leads to sales, because otherwise, why the hell are we doing it? We'll talk about the best marketing platforms to share your content right now and why those are so important. We'll talk about the easy way to brainstorm content ideas for the entire year in less than an hour. Yeah, for real, that's exactly what we're getting ready to do together. We'll talk about how to leverage one quality piece of content into multiple uses. And this is very much finding that easy button in your business and working smarter. And we'll talk about how to experiment and test content ideas to make them even better. And I want you to really put that experimenter hat on in all of your marketing because that is really the name of the game. It's all about iterating. Now, this is the question I want you to ask yourself to identify whether or not content marketing is even right for you. First thing, do you want to connect with your customers, to connect with them deeply? Do you want to build trust with your audience? Do you want to generate leads for your business, new prospects? Do you want to improve conversions? Like, yeah, the people that actually buy so that you could make more money. This ultimately is the promise of great content marketing. And the truth is customers expect it these days. So I want you to hear that. They expect it. It's not a sort of an add-on anymore. In the digital era, information is readily available, and our audiences, our customers or clients are expecting high quality content to help them make good decisions about what they purchase. So either you're providing it or your competition is. So really let that sink in for a minute. If you're not doing it, somebody else is, and they're better positioning themselves for the business than you could be right now. So we're gonna reshift that and make sure that your content marketing is on point as we work through this today. Now, you'll know I really like to pull up this slide in virtually all trainings that I do, which just talk about, the marketing funnel or the sales funnel. And there's a really great quote by Bob Burg, the author of Go Giver, which many of you have read. And he says, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to the people that they know, like, and trust. And we know that that know, like, and trust factor is really important when we're developing a relationship with a potential client, because trust is kind of that last phase. And that's where they say, yeah, I'm ready to pull the trigger and make this purchase from this company. And working through that marketing funnel, what we know is that we start with perfect strangers at the top. There's a bunch of people that right now don't know your business. They don't know mine. They're outside the funnel. And so that first little piece is kind of turning on the awareness. And that's really important with content marketing, is a lot of times we're really hitting them at the awareness phase and the consideration phase, where they start thinking about whether or not they want to work with us. And ultimately, good content marketing is guiding us towards that decision phase where a customer or a client is saying, yeah, I'm ready, I want to pull the trigger. And as we've talked about, that's where that know, like, and trust factor is fully on board. So what is content marketing? I want to make sure we're all on the same page with this, because this is really important. Now, I'm going to give you two different definitions here, but I want you to note a few of the similarities. On the left, a type of marketing that involves the creation and sharing of online material that does not explicitly promote a brand, but is intended to stimulate interest in its products or services. So notice a couple things here. Online, cool, got it. Doesn't promote explicitly, right? We're not really talking about our products or services through content marketing, but we're providing something that is ideally going to stimulate interest among potential buyers. Now look at the other definition. A strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable consumer action. So let's look at the key pieces here. Valuable. Got to be valuable to your audience. Relevant. Yeah, that too. And consistent. And you guys know I bring this up a lot. Marketing must be consistent to really work. You can't do this once a year and think that you're going to get really great results in your business. So it's about creating something you can continually implement and do so in a way that's really sustainable. And that's what we'll talk about today. And ultimately, it needs to drive profitable customer actions. What we're talking about here is people need to buy. At the end of the day, we don't want to be cranking out content just for the sake of doing it. It needs to be leading towards, in fact, a sale. So great content at its core is really going to do two things. First, it's got to connect in a meaningful way with your audience. Note the your part of that. It needs to be really specific to who you serve. And it needs to lead to a purchase over time, right? So as that know, like, and trust factor develops, and every business is going to be different in terms of how long it will take someone to come on board. Now, this is the kicker. It is 100% about your audience. Just take a look at this slide and we've got 20, 30 some odd people here. All of these people would have different interests, different likes, would consume content in different ways, would also be on different platforms, would be in the market for different things at any given moment in time. And so what I want you to be thinking about at the core of good content marketing is always going to be your ideal client, your avatar. So keep that in mind. It only works if you hit the target for your business. And so there are going to be lots of options in terms of the format and the actual content itself. It just has to be on point for your audience. So don't allow yourself to get distracted by what other people are doing in other industries. Just because you see someone do it, like say you might see Hatch Tribe do something, but that doesn't mean it's a great fit for you. It could be, but I want you to run it through your filter and really think about your own audience. So the North Star of things, and I'd use the North Star kind of in a nice analogy here when we think about the direction we want to point it, right? So the question we ask ourselves is, how can you help make your audience smarter so that they are better prepared when they're ready to make a decision? The North Star means we want to deliver information that makes your buyer more intelligent, and hopefully they'll reward you with their business later on. That is truly the promise of great content marketing. Now, There are boatloads of different types of content marketing, and here are just a few. Now, content marketing tends to be long form, meaning it's not just a little snippet, it's something that has some meat to it. But it can be value packed and yet still brief. So just consider that some of these are going to have more depth and more content contained within the content, perhaps than other things would. But great content marketing is always, again, going to have some of those core premises. It's got to be really valuable for your audience. And we know that often we need a little bit more than like 2 sentences to provide something of super, super value. So this is a common question. Well, what types of formats or what format should I be using if I'm, creating content for my business? So I'd like you to ask yourself a couple of questions. So the first thing is where is your ideal client spending his or her time? Now, this, of course, is the core foundation of all marketing. We want to make sure that we're not shouting into the void. So for example, I'll give you a 25-year-old, would they be spending time on Instagram and Reels? Just by age alone, we can probably say yes. But if you said your audience was primarily, women age 65, I'd say, yeah, probably not. They might be in another place consuming content a little bit more diligently and really engaging. So we want to start with that first filter. Now, the second question to ask yourself is what type of content does your audience like consuming? So the example I give here is like, let's think about an audience of, say, busy moms that we know, have to go pick up their kids, or they're in the car, like taking their, kids all over town. They may consume podcasts because it's something that's convenient for them and because they're already spending a lot of time in the car, and it's a great way for them to consume it versus, say, sitting down and reading a blog. So just understand that, of course, there's different purposes. Blogs obviously can be used for SEO, which helps us with getting traffic to our websites, whereas podcasts, often are for deepening a relationship. So there are different uses for those, but again, we want to think about where is your audience, where are they hanging out, and what do they actually like? And ask your audience, and this is a critical piece here. You never want to just guess entirely. The reason you guess is when you're in your very first year of business. You have to do some amount of just throwing things out there because you don't yet have an audience. But the vast majority of you sitting here listening to this training right now, you have an existing business. And if you're going to start something new, I highly encourage you to vet it out with the audience that you have. Hey, we're thinking about launching a podcast. Would you be interested in that? Would that be cool to you? Let's get some votes from your audience. Great ways to do that are polls, surveys, ask them via email, do some customer interviews. You've got lots of options, and just don't be afraid to ask the question. What we tend to find is that when we put it out there and ask our audience, they're more than happy to weigh in, because chances are if they're following you already and already engaging with your business, of course they're going to want to help you out. Now, I do like to provide a recommendation. You guys know I'm a business coach, and my clients often will come to me for help really building out a marketing strategy. And I will tell you, over the years of working with businesses, we tend to land on some very specific things. So I'm going to give you my recommendation, and if you're not implementing this, and to be clear, if this is still a good fit for your audience, I would encourage you to execute this. So first up, blog. I recommend doing this 2 to 4 times per month. So what that would mean is like you're doing it every week or every other week. And the primary reason for this is it helps with SEO. What we know is that having, updated current content on your site is really meaningful when people go search, and your website is going to rank higher if it looks active to Google versus a site that hasn't been updated in 3 years. So this is really important. So I want you to be thinking about, keywords and things that people would be searching for, so that when you're creating content, you can put something valuable out there that would actually help somebody, through search. Now, video. My recommendation here is once a week, and the reason for this is very clear. This is the top trending format of all the things right now. This is across every single platform, and you guys know this. I'm not telling you anything that you're not seeing and not hearing. All of the social media sites want to keep users on their sites as long as possible because that's where they get their revenue from. So whether you're YouTube or whether you're Instagram or whether you're Facebook, they know if they can lock you in, where they're generating ad revenue off of you. And so video is really important. If we show up there, not only are we tapping into a trend that these platforms are really prioritizing, but you're also really engaging with where the audience is shifting. People are consuming a lot of video, and it really serves a nice benefit of people getting to experience the fullness of you if you're that face and voice of your brand. So, if you're just audio, like how you're consuming this right now, I mean, you're seeing on screen visuals, but you're only hearing my voice. You're only getting part of Hilary. But if I record a video and it's me on camera like we do, you're getting to experience a bit more of me, what I'm like. You see my facial expressions, you see how I interact. And that's what makes this really powerful, especially if you're in a one-to-one type of business or where you're intimately involved in the sales cycle. Get on camera, get out there, get in front of it. Newsletters, I encourage you to do this 2 to 4 times per month. And this would be, of course, engaging with an existing audience. We're going to talk about how to grow it. But, ultimately, you want to be able to send a newsletter as long as you have valuable and meaningful content. If you're creating videos or blogs, you've got it. So a blog can immediately be repurposed into a newsletter. You can send out a link to your video in your newsletter. You've got lots of options, but I do encourage you to do this. Don't let your newsletter list sit dead, and don't ever assume people don't want to hear from you. This is a common concern I hear from people saying, like, I don't know, like, do they want to hear from me that often? The truth is, if they don't, they're not going to read it. So that's not your business. Your business is to send it out. Next up, social media. Here, my recommendation is daily. And, obviously here you want to leverage what you've created, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I want you to share all the content you've created and then some. But the key here with social is, like, there's a very short shelf life. And so being present daily gives you more opportunities to be in front of your audience, and that's really important. And then a lead magnet, this is a little bit different, but many of the pieces of content you could be creating can easily be turned into lead magnets. And of course, a lead magnet is a freebie that you are going to use to grow your email list and to generate new leads. So typically, I will recommend to my clients to create a PDF, like a downloadable, a webinar hosted, online, or some type of a quiz. We use Lead Quiz to host ours. Promote those, like running paid ads, running traffic to that, and that's going to help you generate some new leads. So if you're not implementing this, or you're implementing, let's say, a fraction of it, I want you to ask yourself, can you get to this? Because this is a really nice cadence for the vast majority of businesses. Okay, so if I haven't scared you away yet, let's go ahead and shift on. And this is where we're going to really start kicking into the idea development, because you might be thinking, oh my God, like, I don't even know how to come up with enough content, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. We're going to make this really, really easy. And you're going to have 50 plus ideas by the time we're done here. Okay, let's go. So let's talk about the types of content. Now, we've talked about the platforms, meaning, like, where is it hosted, a blog, a video, etc. Now we're talking about, like, what is it about? What is the nature of the content you're sharing? There are 7 primary types. Entertainment is content that's kind of about having fun. Inspiration is intended to energize and motivate your audience. Education is sharing what to do and how to do. Conversational content is really opening a dialogue with your audience. Connection, I like to talk about this as it speaks into the heart of your audience. Promotion, this is content where it's directly talking about your products or your services. And then newsworthy. These are things that are timely updates happening potentially in your industry or in your business itself. So it's time. We're going to start brainstorming some ideas. So first up, we do have a worksheet for this. And this is a worksheet that's in Google Sheets that you are welcome to use and to just type right into. And I do encourage you, whatever you choose to do, whether you're using that Google Sheets or using something else, put it online in a place where you can add to it always. I have some clients that use, like, the notes section in their phone. Like, if you have an Apple, you might use a note and just, like, have a place to drop stuff. Some of my other clients use, like, Trello boards. We use Asana. We have lots of content ideas there. So just make sure you've got a place that you will always put those ideas. Because that way, when you need to go create some content, you can just grab an idea and go. And that is the whole point here. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you of just a couple things. The best content ideas are going to connect to your company, your brand, your products, and your services. So don't just draw on random ideas just because you've seen someone else do them or it sounds like a thing, because they're not going to help you sell your stuff later on. So let me give you an example. So let's just say you sell logo design, you're a graphic designer, and you think that it would be a fun idea to share the 10 best Christmas movies. Now, that could be an entertaining piece of content around the holidays, but is it going to help you sell logos? Probably not. A better idea would be, okay, you're a graphic designer, you sell logos. Instead, you create something that says, the best Christmas card designs we wish we'd thought of first. So then you could share something that's on brand. So you're sharing Christmas card designs that you wish you had thought of that might be funny, that might be cute. And it's giving you a chance to really talk in your industry without going outside of it and stay topical at the same time. You follow? Okay. So using that frame of reference, either grab your notebook or go ahead and get that worksheet and let's start building some ideas together. Okay. First up, entertainment. So when we talk about entertainment style content, it could be things that are around holidays. It could be viral videos, jokes, memes, puzzles, contests, and giveaways. So I want to give you a couple of prompts, and then I'm going to say just hit the pause button and start to generate a few ideas. And I'm going to give you a goal here of try to get about 10 ideas in the entertainment box before we move on. So first question or prompt to think about is, what's the most important holiday to your audience? So perhaps your audience is parents, and maybe kids going back to school is a very exciting holiday that you'd like to talk about, right? Now, another prompt. What is absolutely true about your audience that everyone laughs about? So like in the world of entrepreneurship, we often talk about how we are guzzling coffee. That's how we stay up, it's how we get through, it's how we power through. Maybe there's something like that in your industry. And next up, what could you give away and use to capture leads? We really love doing giveaways at Hatch Tribe. We use a platform called King Sumo to actually host our giveaways. So this could be something that you could do as well. So I'm going to give you just the opportunity to hit pause here. See if you can get about 10 ideas generated in entertainment, and then I'll meet you on the next slide. The next category of content ideas is around inspiration. Now, this one probably is going to come to you a little easier. Here we're talking about quotes, facts, success stories, personal stories. These are things that your audience is going to see, and it's going to energize them and motivate them. So here are a few prompts for you. 1, tell the story of your best client ever and about their results. Now, to be clear, you could do this for your top 3 or 4 clients. Why stop with 1? Okay. 2, tell the story of why you're so passionate about your work. This is one of the things that's funny. Oftentimes as business owners, we're not really talking about ourselves and, why we wound up in this business and what we love about it and, what gets us up every day. And that's a really powerful way of connecting to your audience. Number 3, what's the best advice you've received that's super relevant to your audience? Tell that story. So I'm going to give you just an opportunity again, hit pause. And I want you to come up with about 10 ideas for the inspiration category. When you're done, I'll meet you on the next slide. Education. Now, this is one where you're going to be like, I get it. And for most businesses, this is where a lot of really powerful content is going to stem from. If you think about the promise of content marketing, really empowering your audience to become more educated before they make a purchase decision, this category is going to make a lot of sense. So we could be creating content like informational blogs, sharing tips and tricks, sharing industry research or case studies. It could be a live training, something like I'm doing right now. It could be a step-by-step process. You could answer FAQs or host a webinar. Now, a few prompts to kind of get you going here. First up, what's the number one question you get from potential clients? And you might be able to rattle off 5. And that very easily creates some FAQs that you can do content around. 2, what do you wish your clients knew about your industry that would make their experience even better? Now, I'm going to give you an example. So I have several clients that work in the field of marketing, and many of them do web design. And one of the things that we've talked about is how oftentimes someone shows up and wants a website design, but they don't really understand the process or what types of input they need to be able to provide in order to get a really great website back from their designer. So imagine if that was you, you could educate on that process and really guide people in how to get you those components to make that web design experience amazing. Now, another one, the 3 steps to insert whatever here. So you will often find in the world of content marketing the use of a number like 3 steps to, or 10 powerful ways to, or the 5 best blah, 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 right? So see if you can brainstorm up a couple of ideas around that. And again, remember, keep it in your industry, keep it tight to what you do, and let it be something that would be valuable and meaningful to your audience. Okay, hit pause here and then generate about 10 ideas, and I'll see you on the next slide. Now, the next group of content ideas falls into conversation. And as we talked about before, this type of content, is really a little bit more interactive, because what we're trying to do is open up a conversation with our audience. So these could be questions, fill in the blanks, caption this photo, polls, asking for input, feedback, and opinions. So let me give you a couple of prompts and you can get rolling here. First up, ask your audience for their opinion on a hot topic in your industry. So, it could be like, let's just take the world of business. How do you feel right now about using Reels or using TikTok for your business, right? So we could open that conversation and see what our audience responds with. Now, mind you, you might be thinking, that doesn't sound like a depth of content. And you're right, this isn't necessarily a thing that's going to move the needle towards a purchase, but it is keeping us on brand potentially especially if we were getting ready to roll out, say, a piece of education around TikTok or Reels. So again, really think about how you can stay on brand, because it can help you kind of seed an idea that you're getting ready to come out with. You could ask your audience for their feedback on a new product or service you're launching or considering. And this is very much that idea we talked about before of like, go get feedback from your audience if you're going to launch something new. Like, hey, we're thinking about launching a podcast. What topics would you love for us to talk about? Or, hey, we're about to create a guide of these things. Which of these ideas do you like the best? And you could create a poll to ask your audience what their favorite blank is. And again, it could be related to something that you sell. So take a few moments and just see what you can come up with here. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and caution it. Don't stress out if you're having a hard time figuring out how this intimately relates to content that's going to yield a sale. Some of these are just more about developing that relationship, and it's really helping us deepen it. And we know that the interaction matters, so it just plays a different role. So whereas how-to could be very much educating, this interactive conversational style content is more about opening the door so that they see that you're real, that your business is real, that you actually want to have a conversation with them. And that's relationship building, okay? So hit pause, give me 10 ideas, and I'll see you on the next slide. Connection. Now, this is really fun content here, and it could be about sharing something behind the scenes. It could be a product review. It could be a feature about an employee or one of your customers. It could be about your community. It could be engagement that you're doing in the community, or even charity efforts. So let me give you a few prompts. The first, you could share a story about one of your employees, and you might find that that's something you like doing so much that you just implement it once a month. And I actually recommend this if you have team. Next up, show how you're giving back to your local community and why you care about that cause. People love to know that they're doing business with businesses that give back, that really care. So this could be a really powerful way to talk about yourself and the good that you're doing in the world in a way that's really meaningful. And then last up, what's a day in the life of your business look like? Show us. This is something that lends itself really well to a video, so you could have some fun with that. All right, I'm going to say what I have before. Hit pause, come up with about 10 ideas, and I will see you on the next slide. Promotion. Now, this, as we talked about, doesn't squarely fit within like what the heck is content marketing, because if content marketing is intended to be not specifically talking about our products or services, how does this fit in? But I'm going to show you. It's kind of a silent backdoor kind of way where we would talk about what we're doing, but we're doing it in kind of a nuanced fashion. So it could be sharing client testimonials. It could be talking about products or services. It could be offering a discount, really having a direct offer, or even a new product launch. So first up, a prompt here is you could showcase one of the big pain points that your product or service solves. Remember, what we often do if we're not thinking about our marketing is talk about like what's included and what you get when you get this thing, without really thinking that, when people buy, what they're typically buying for is to take away a pain or to create some kind of a joy. So you can talk about the pain and the joy in what they're getting. So spend a little time thinking about that. 2, you can share a testimonial from a client. This is something that we really try to do in our marketing at least once a week. So we share, wins from our community. We share testimonials that I get, about coaching. Those are really powerful because it's somebody else really saying, how you've helped them in their own world. So consider that. And then also showcase one of the biggest benefits of your products or services that your customers rave about. So, if you, you probably would see this through some of the testimonials, but it could also be in feedback you're kind of getting silently. And you can say, we've been getting just rave reviews about this specific thing. So that is an option. So I want you to hit the pause button, come up with about 10 ideas here, and then I will see you on the next slide. Okay, we've made it to the last of the categories. Category number 7 is newsworthy content. And here what we're talking about is breaking news, industry news, press releases, announcements, hiring, or even debated topics. So here are a couple prompts to get you going. 1, what's the most talked about thing happening in your industry? Now, I don't want you to just share the news. I want you to actually offer your insights on it. So let's just say you're an interior designer and Pantone's released their color of the year. You might share what the color of the year is, but you might also offer your insights on it and perhaps show some photography of how it's being used in certain settings, right? So you're deepening it and really sharing something valuable. 2, if you made a recent hire or you're hiring right now, tell your audience about it. It looks amazing anytime a business is able to talk about hiring. So never play that down. Even if it's just like, I'm hiring somebody for 5 hours a week, put it on your site and talk about it because it looks really good. And people feel excited when you're hiring. You're going to get, I promise you, lots of engagement on it. And what are the top trends you're seeing in your industry? Of course, this is always exciting. People want your eye. They want to know what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And, if you're the expert, as you should be, in your industry, you should have a platform to be able to share what you're seeing, whatever trends are really noteworthy, because that's really helping educate your audience and helping them, really think a little more intelligently about what it is that you do. So hit pause, generate about 10 ideas, and then I'm going to go ahead and meet you on the next slide. All right. Do you have 50 plus fresh content ideas on paper? You should. Or you should have damn near close. I encourage you to get about 10 ideas for each of those 7 categories. So if you got 10, you've got 70, and that is more than a year's worth of content ideas. And here's why. Every single one of those content ideas can get you a week or more worth of content. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that because I want you to work smarter, not harder. If you just generated 50 ideas, I don't want you cranking out 5 different ideas in 1 week. It's too much. You don't need to do it. It's honestly, it is a way to drive yourself into the ground. And long form content, like content marketing and the platforms we talked about today, should always be leveraged, and it should always be repurposed into different formats, and it can be reshared over time. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So stick with me. So we want to be thinking about, for any given piece of content, where are the different places you can use it? And it's going to require you to do a slight iteration to get there. But the beautiful thing that happens when we do this is we take one main message. It shows up in many different platforms. One, there's the benefit that you're working way smarter, and it's way easier to do this. And two, it creates this really beautiful halo effect around your brand. So your branding starts to look really consistent. Your messaging starts to sound really consistent. You're talking about the same thing in different places and different platforms, which is great. So if somebody's following you on, say, YouTube and Instagram, they're noticing some similar content and similar consistency. And remember, we talked about that importance of showing up consistently, but also what we're talking about is consistency of message. So the method that I'm going to teach you is what we call the 1 to 10 method. This means we're going to take one long form piece of content and you're going to use it in a minimum of 10 different ways. And that's how you can get very easily a week's worth of content really, really quick out of one long form piece of content. All right, so here's my reco, and I wrote this out in very specific detail because I didn't want you to question later what the heck I meant, and if you don't want to work too hard at it, you can literally just use exactly what I am prescribing right here, but feel free to tweak this as you choose. So my recommendation is to start with a blog. Now, you'll see in the footnote, and I'm just going to say this right now, if video is your preferred format, start with video first. But if you're better at writing, start with the writing first. So I'm just going to say you do you, either write it or record it, but pick one of those and begin there. Okay, but for this example, we'll say we're starting with a blog. So you've written it. Okay, so the first thing is you're going to publish that blog to your website. Check. Okay, that's working for your SEO. That's helping getting traffic to your website. It's helping you look very fresh in the ranking and the results on Google. Score. Okay, 2. Now you're going to take that same content, right? You've already written it. So all you got to do now is sit down and record a video of that same content. So you could sit right in front of your camera, you don't have to overcomplicate this. Record it from your webcam or record it from your iPhone and just talk through exactly what you just wrote in that blog. And you're going to publish that to YouTube. And the reason why I want you to put it on YouTube is because it is a really strong search engine. People go there searching for content, and pretty much every industry is there in some shape or form. So this is a great place to put it. Now, after that, I want you to send out a newsletter. And that newsletter can include the link to the video, hey, go watch this new video with a little snippet, or it could be the blog. You could literally put in a snippet of the blog or the entirety of the blog itself. And I encourage you to actually test both. We regularly test both. And what we found over time is that we're getting a little bit more traction with people clicking over to videos versus reading, but we will continue to publish both types of content for different purposes. Now, you've already got the video. So let's go take that video and publish it to Facebook, because why not? Same format, just stick it right on over there. Now, let's take that same thing and publish it to IGTV. Now, when you publish it to IGTV, you're also going to include the preview into the IG feed, which is great because now it's going to show up in your feed itself and it's hosted in IGTV. Okay, cool. You tracking with me? Now, let's go make a Facebook post with it. So I want you to post to Facebook and include an excerpt with the link to the entire blog. So by excerpt, I mean just give me a little sexy intro, 2 sentences, and then link it out so that they can click and watch the rest of the blog. This could also be done with the video, but since you've published it natively, we're just going to keep it that way. Okay. Up next, Instagram post. So here you can post to Instagram with I spelled excerpt wrong twice, an excerpt with the link to the entire blog. Now I know on Instagram you can't put the link and have it clickable. So you're going to say, click the blog link in bio. Okay. And then put that link up there. Ideally using something like link in bio. Okay. Then Instagram and Facebook stories. So you can share that IGTV video straight into your stories. You can also create your own little stories and then share those as well. Now, I would say go over to LinkedIn, especially if you're in the B2B world. So go over and post your blog as an article, which would be a native article on LinkedIn, or you can upload the video, and those can both be native. And again, you'll note I put here test both, because you may find one over the other is getting a lot more traction. As we talked about before, video is still getting a lot of priority on these platforms. So I would highly encourage you to test the video. But you may note that your audience, is responding more to the blog. So either way, test it. That's the whole point of marketing. And then we can come back to these Instagram and Facebook stories and create a slideshow of those main points in your video or blog. So let's just say it was, the top 3 apps that we're loving right now. Then you're going to make a slideshow with like the headline, and then you're going to have one slide for each of the different apps, and then probably a closing slide, and then you're off to the races. So note that one blog becomes a boatload of different content. And what you will find, and I promise you this, just once you start getting used to it, after you've written it, it's so easy to write a Facebook post, because you just pull one little tiny thing and you're going to use that on Instagram and you're going to use it on LinkedIn. It gets really easy once you have the long form piece of content done. And the reason I actually encourage you to start with the blog is that if you're going to do video, you have to have kind of a wireframe of what you're going to talk about anyway, because otherwise you'd be like rambly as hell on the video. So don't get me wrong, I've done it before, but I think that for really powerful content, it's good to have a really guided conversation on video. And so if you write the blog first, you've already got your talking points, and then you can use like a, what's the word I'm looking for? I have one on my computer, like a slideshow kind of thing teleprompter. Sorry about that. You can use a teleprompter app that can literally put up your sentences and you can read them if you want to do it that way, so you don't have to memorize everything. Or you can look at your notes. Like, people don't care. Just like get up and do it. That's more important than getting it perfect. All you got to do is look at my videos to see that, and you will know. Okay. So let's talk about best practices. So first up, you've heard me say this, test, test, test. I can't say this enough. There is no right in marketing. Right is getting it out. Right is publishing the content even if you're not sure what kind of results it's going to get. Wrong is holding it back because you're trying to get it perfect, or because you're not sure how it's going to land, or you're afraid of doing it, or you're afraid of being judged, or whatever. Those are the wrong things to do. The right thing to do is put it out there and not worry about it. And you're really going to get the right evidence and data you need, and we'll talk about that. Now, up next, I want you to remember the rule of 7. And if you haven't heard me talk about this before, what it means is that the average person is going to need to see your content about 7 times before the light bulb even turns on. And by that, I mean, they're just not even recognizing you yet. So if you think about back to that funnel, when we try to bring strangers into the awareness phase, they may need to see the same piece of content or something really, really similar for about 7 times before they're like, oh, I've seen Hatch Tribe. So this is the importance of continuing to show up again and again and again and again. It's about them. It's not about you. And so I just encourage you to take your ego out of this and take the fear out of this, because if you want to be in service of your audience, you got to show up and show up big for them. It is not about you. I want you to review your analytics every 30 days. You do not need to look at it every day. That is a surefire recipe for making you crazy. It's kind of like they say, don't weigh yourself on the scale every day, because you're going to watch a pound fluctuate up and down, and it's going to make you crazy. Similarly, I don't think you need to be looking at your analytics on your marketing every 30 days, or excuse me, every day, but every 30 days, yes. Because over the aggregate of that, you're going to be able to see what's working and what's not, and that's where it's really powerful. Now, here's a piece that we didn't talk about in depth, but you can reuse that effective content every 30 to 60 days. So let's just say at the end of 30 days, you look back at the last month and you're like, wow, I shared these 4 like long form pieces of content, and I can see that 2 of these were wildly popular. They got lots of engagement, they got lots of questions, et cetera, et cetera. You can use that content again. So repurpose it, put it back into your social media, rerun the video, put it back into a different newsletter. Like, reuse it, and you can do that every 30 to 60 days. And the reason why is that your audience is not with 100% coverage seeing every single thing that you do, right? So you know what the open rates are on your email. Look how many people didn't open it. You know what the engagement rate was on your social media. Look at how many people didn't even see it, right? So reuse it because it worked before. So come back with it again. And as always, do more of what's working and less of what's not. That's kind of a given here, but I just like to say it. And then last but not least, this is really important for marketing. 90 days is really the rule. It's the minimum for measuring the true effectiveness of new marketing effort. And the reason why is because this matches the buyer's cycle with a little bit more closeness. Now, if you sold candy bars, and they cost $2, the buyer cycle is a lot shorter, right? But if you sell website design, it might take longer for someone to even sign up with you from the point that they become aware of you to when they make a decision to buy from you. But 90 days is a really good window for the vast majority of businesses to measure marketing effectiveness. So you're still going to look at the analytics every 30 days, but you're going to take a look at the entirety of all of it at the end of 90 and say, wow, what worked? And that's going to give you the really powerful data you need to keep moving this forward and really evolving it in your business. So here is your challenge. I want you to implement the 1 to 10 method at least 1 time this month. And the reason I say do it 1 time is that you got to learn it first. But once you do it, you're going to find it gets really, really easy. So in a month, in an ideal month, let's just say you're going to use the blog. You might publish a blog every week, and you're going to leverage that each individual blog for those 10 pieces of content each week. So that's going to put out 40 pieces of content, like snippets, all across your marketing strategy, built around having only 4 blogs, and that's it. So bonus points if you do it more often, of course, but I want you to at least implement it 1 time because you're going to see just how simple it gets once you have that 1 long form piece of content done. And of course, you can feel free to iterate on that and change it because your 10 don't have to be the 10 that I recommended. They can be whatever, and they should be whatever works for your business, where your audience is, and where they are consuming content. Now, if you have any questions at all about today's training, do not hesitate to pop them in the comments below this training, or of course, join us inside the Facebook group. I am happy to answer any of your questions at any time ever. You guys know marketing is one of my favorite topics of all time, and the reason why is because it's what helps you bring your gift to the world. It's important. It's really important that you put yourself out in the world, and getting in content marketing and really learning how to do this well is going to position you to win, not just win in the short term, but win in the long term. It helps you build a brand. It helps you put a voice and a face with what you do. And it really helps build that know, like, and trust factor with your audience because you're going to become a trusted resource. So get out there, make it happen. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.